What's up, y'all? Brandon with BC Talks here. We finally made it. Football season is back. Let's go, baby. Now, obviously, college football started last week, and there were some really great games, but the NFL starts tomorrow night, and I thought it would be a really fun because, as y'all know, two of my biggest fandoms are football and comic books. So I thought it'd be fun, especially with everybody locking in their fantasy football teams, getting them cleaned up and polished and ready for tomorrow night. It'd be fun to draft a couple of fantasy football teams with our favorite comic book and superhero characters. So I had a lot of fun with this, and it was kind of challenging for a few positions as well. I drafted an MCU team and sort of an amalgamation of the DCEU, the DC live action TV shows, and the DCU. A DC team basically and an MCU team, and we're gonna go over those today. So let me know down in the comments if you would make any changes or pick any other characters for the positions that I picked, and let me know who you think would win if they faced off against each other. We're going to start with the MCU because they are the most popular. Although DC is on the way up, I believe in James Gunn and I believe in the comeback. But we're going to start off with the MCU because they're the most popular right now. And we're going with standard fantasy football team rules. So that is one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, a defense, and a kicker. Now, for the defense, because you can't, in regular fantasy football, you just draft that team defense. You can't really do that with, comic book characters. So I did something a little bit different that we'll get to when we get to the defense. But starting off with the quarterback of the team, for the MCU team, I kind of debated. I had a little thought going into this, and I debated between Steve Rogers, Captain America, and Hawkeye. Now, Hawkeye has the accuracy, but accuracy is not the only skill needed to be quarterback. We see this in the NFL all the time. Like in our division, the Patriots division, the Dolphins are in the Patriots division, so I get to see Tua play a lot. And Tua is considered one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. But he's not in that next, that upper echelon of quarterbacks like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow because he doesn't have some of the other skills necessary. He's just very accurate. You need more skills to play quarterback, like identifying the opposing team's scheme in the defense pre-snap, making post-snap decisions, making audibles, being a leader on the team, and having that will to, that dog in you to will your team back when you're down. All those are characteristics that Steve Rogers, Captain America, has. So I went with Steve Rogers, Captain America, as our quarterback, the OG leader of the Avengers. He has to be the leader for the MCU team. And I see Steve Rogers as the Tom Brady of this fantasy football. When Steve Rogers in Endgame, at the end of Endgame, when he's zipping up his broken shield that Thanos broke, and he's all alone going against Thanos' entire army right before the portal scene. That is like the 28-3 scene. When Tom Brady, that picture of Tom Brady sitting down on the bench with his head down, thinking as it's as they're down by multiple scores. That is Steve Rogers' 28-3 moment. And then the portal scene is when everybody comes back, like the defense and Julian Edelman catch and all of that. That's the portal scene. So Steve Rogers is our Tom Brady on the MCU team, and he's going to be the leader of the squad and our QB. And also, Steve Rogers can throw because he throws the shield, which defies the laws of physics. So if he's able to throw the shield, he can throw a football very well. Now, for running back, I was going to go with, make a rule where I was only going to go with players or characters that are currently in the MCU now, but I just had to put this character at running back number one. That is T'Challa's Black Panther. R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman. I believe his birthday would have been last month or a few weeks ago. It just passed. And so in honor of Chadwick Boseman, we've got T'Challa as our running back number one. There are multiple scenes in the MCU where we see T'Challa running past everybody. He was running past Steve Rogers in Infinity War. And then in Endgame, we saw him running with the gauntlet. He was basically holding like a football and running through the battlefield like a running back, and he would have got away if not for Thanos catching him. So we have T'Challa's Black Panther as our running back number one, and imagine a speed option with Steve Rogers and T'Challa. That would be crazy. That would go crazy. And so that's our running back number one is T'Challa, and our running back number two is a character that is in the MCU currently, although we might not even know her fate. That is Makari from the Eternals. Now, I don't hate the Eternals as much as a lot of people do. I've come around on the Eternals a lot, and even back when it came out, I didn't think it was as bad as other people did. It's definitely not the best MCU movie, and it's not in the middle either. It's kind of in the lower third of MCU movies, but I don't think it's the worst MCU movie like a lot of people say. And one of the bright spots in the Eternals was Makari. I liked her character, I liked her relationship with Druig, and I especially liked how they portrayed her speed. A lot of the times with speedsters, like the Flash, for example, or Quicksilver, they'll portray everything around them as slow motion, and then the character just going through it. But with Makari, they did not do that. They just showed pure, raw, dynamic speed. And I really like that. I hope that when James Gunn finally does the Flash in the DCU, that we see the Flash's speed that way. I'm kind of tired of the slow motion speedsters. Give me that raw, fast, punchy speed like Makari had. So Makari is going to be our running back number two. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch there. T'Challa's Black Panther and the speedster from Eternals, Makari. Now, for our wide receivers, I went with a different strategy. We're going to take every advantage available to us. I am a Patriots fan. Some people say that, we cheated with Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick was cheating out there and spying and whatnot. But we, the Patriots, we just take every advantage available to us. And if there are rules that can be interpreted a certain way, we're going to interpret them that way. So we are taking to the skies. That's right. We are taking advantage of our superhero characters. And both of our wide receivers are going to be characters who can fly. And that is going to be Monica Rambeau and Sam Wilson's Captain America, two flyers. Now, you might say, Brandon, can Monica Rambeau or Sam Wilson catch the football? Because that's a necessary thing with wide receivers, obviously. You need them to catch and have good hands. At least for Sam Wilson, I can say he could definitely probably play wide receiver because, as we mentioned before, the shield, the Captain America shield, it defies the laws of physics. And if you can throw it and catch it, as it's coming back the way that Sam Wilson does, yeah, he basically is as good with the shield, if not better, than Steve Rogers now. So if he can catch the shield, he can definitely catch a football coming at him. Because that shield is dangerous and it defies the laws of physics, as Spider-Man said. And we're gonna have Sam Wilson out as our wide receiver one, and then Monica as our wide receiver two. And now, as far as Monica Rambeau, I don't know if she can catch, but she does have another added benefit, something that some people might say is cheating. But we're taking advantage of the rules, as I'm a Patriots fan. She can go intangible, like the character Ghost in Thunderbolts, as we saw in the Marvels. She can pass through things or make things pass through her, so that will help her to get through the defense. She can basically just fly through them, and she can figure out how to catch later. She's a sister, she's black, so she can figure out how to catch. And then our tight end, I really like our tight end. This was an easy choice for me. I went with the Hulk, but specifically Professor Hulk.
I see this as an absolute win.
Now, I know that a lot of people, they prefer the OG Rage Hulk to Professor Hulk. I actually kind of really like Professor Hulk because, I like Mark Ruffalo getting to act a little bit more. But, the Rage Hulk is also cool. But for our purposes here as a fantasy football team, we need Professor Hulk because the Rage Hulk is not going to be, running routes and listening to play calls from Captain America unless he says Hulk smash. That's all he knows. So we need Professor Hulk who has a mind and can think and reason, so he can run the routes if we need routes ran, or he'll stay in a block if we need to block on running plays. So we have Professor Hulk at tight end, and he's going to be going through the defense, catching drags and short routes, or blocking on run plays if needed. So that is our tight end. Now, for our flex position, the flex is an interesting position. It's probably the hardest position to choose because it can literally be anybody you want. But you want someone who's dynamic enough to provide the value that both a running back and a receiver can provide. So you want someone who can catch passes out the backfield if they're a running back or a wide receiver. And you also kind of want somebody who can run, who can get yards, points from running on the ground as well, and touchdowns. So that is why I went with the Sentry, because he is probably the most dynamic character in the MCU currently. The Sentry, he can fly, he has super speed, super reaction time, super strength, and all sorts of other powers. He's basically the Kirkland brand Superman with also psionic powers because we saw him hold off the bullets and flick them back when he was shot at. So we're going with the Sentry at our flex position, who's going to get rack up a lot of points because he can do a lot of different things on the field. Now, for our defense, like I said, I had a little bit more fun with the defense, and I kind of built it out because you can't really go with just a team. I guess I could have done like the Thunderbolts or the Defenders, but that's not as fun. So what I did for the defense was I picked a player for each major position and built out the defense that way. So for our defensive line, we have the Thing, Korg, and Drax on the defensive line. Three big, fast maulers who can get to the quarterback. They're going to be disrupting the quarterback, causing pressures, hopefully forcing the quarterback into some interceptions or getting sacks. Then at linebacker, we have Iron Man in the middle, anchoring our defense with the green dot as our middle linebacker. He's going to be directing the defense, the leader of the defense, and he can fly as well, obviously, so he can counteract if, Sam Wilson or Monica Rambeau come through the middle. And then at his two sides, we have Colossus from the Deadpool franchise. As y'all know, Deadpool is part of the MCU now, so we can count Colossus in the MCU, even though that movie was technically not in the MCU. But now Deadpool's in the MCU, so technically you can put Colossus in the MCU now. And I'm sure that we might see Colossus in Secret Wars or Doomsday coming up. So we have Colossus as one of our outside linebackers. And our other outside linebacker, this one might be a controversial pick, a little bit strange, you might say. I have Doctor Strange at our other outside linebacker. So our Mike and our Sam, our Colossus and Doctor Strange, two different types of players, but that's kind of what you want with your outside linebackers. You want kind of like a run stopper and a pass rusher. So Colossus is going to be kind of that run stopper, and then Doctor Strange is there to kind of create barriers and distractions for the on the defense. He's going to be doing the amoebas and the exotic defenses with all his powers. He can create barriers and distractions at linebacker. He's not very strong, obviously, but he'll be good with his powers to create distractions and stop the defense. And then at corner, we want to counteract the flying, so we have two flyers at corner as well. We have Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four and Captain Marvel. I was debating between Captain Marvel to be our wide receiver or our corner, so I went with Monica Rambeau as the wide receiver, and we have Captain Marvel as our cornerback 2 and Johnny Storm as our CB1. So our two corners are Johnny Storm and Captain Marvel. They're going to help to counteract the flying wide receivers. And then at safety, the last line of defense, we are going to have Ant-Man, but he'll be in giant man form. So basically he's like a goalie. He'll be standing, a very deep safety. You got a deep safety. He's going to be the very deep safety. Back basically as the goalie, as giant man, to try and stop anybody from getting into the end zone. And then we have Groot as our other safety, and Groot is he can create all kinds of branches and things with his body to try to stop anybody that gets through the defense, or if our corners need help over the top, he can help them. He can grab the receivers and things like that. So that is our defense. I thought it was a lot of fun to kind of build it out. And then our last position for the MCU team is kicker, and for kicker, I went with Hawkeye. We're going to use Hawkeye's accuracy here. Now, I don't know if Hawkeye can kick necessarily. We can send him to a kicking camp for a couple of months to get his leg going. But if Hawkeye can get the ball up there, it's going in. Hawkeye is accurate, and that accuracy with Hawkeye we're going to use at kicker. So that is the MCU team. Now for the DCU at quarterback, this is probably the easiest choice of the entire video. If you're a ball knower, you know who the DC quarterback is. That is Victor Stone, aka Cyborg. And this is going to be the DCEU Cyborg, not the Cyborg from the Doom Patrol. I think the DCEU Cyborg is a little bit more athletic, at least from what we've seen. As you know, Cyborg's lore, Cyborg was, when he was Victor Stone, a normal human, he was a quarterback, a star quarterback for his high school team. He had offers college, and then he got into the car accident with his mom, which killed his mom and left him for dead. And depending on which version you use of his backstory, in the DCEU, his father used a mother box to bring him back to life. So we're doing the DCEU cyborg, and as we saw in Zack Snyder's Justice League, Victor Stone, he was basically Cam Newton. Cam Newton in his prime. We saw that scene of his backstory where he's running and breaking tackles and jumping over the defense to score the touchdown. So this is the easiest choice of the entire video, or one of them anyway. That is the DCEU cyborg, Victor Stone, as our quarterback. And at our running back, again, this is a pretty easy pick. One of the easiest picks in the video. It's the Flash. We're using, and actually for running back 1 and running back 2, now, y'all can let me know down in the comments. I really didn't want to stack it up with Flashes and Supermen, but we do have a couple on the team. And for running back 2, I couldn't really think of another character that we've seen in live action that could play running back 2 well. So I went with the DCEU Flash, Barry Allen's Flash, from the DCEU as running back number 1. And then I went with Barry Allen from the CW, Grant Gustin, as running back number 2. So we got 2 Flashes. I got 2 Flashes. So we got 2 Flashes on the team. So this team's going to be crazy. Imagine a triple option with Victor Stone at quarterback, the DCEU Barry Allen Flash, and then the Grant Gustin Barry Allen CW Flash. That would be crazy. That's going crazy. That's all we need to run. We don't even need wide receivers or a tight end or any other team. Just have an offensive lineman. Just put, instead of having the wide receivers and everything, just have, what would that be, 8 offensive linemen, and then Victor Stone and the 2 Flashes, and we would win. We would get a touchdown every single play if we ran the triple option. So... But obviously, you can't do that in fantasy football, so we're having other positions. But really, that would be all you need, is the 2 Flashes and Victor Stone at quarterback. So we have the DCEU Flash. Not a lot of explanation here. The Flash is the fastest man alive, and we got 2 of them on the team. I didn't want to stack the team like that, but there wasn't really any other options for the DC live action, especially with the characters I'm going to use later on in the video. So let me know down in the comments who else you think would be a good running back number 2 besides Barry Allen CW Flash. But for right now, it's going to be the CW Flash and the DCEU Flash at running back 1 and 2. Now, for wide receiver, we're taking advantage of the skies once again, just like we did with the MCU team. And we got some heavy hitters here. It's the same strategy for the MCU team. We're going to the skies with Henry Cavill's Superman and the DCEU Supergirl. So not the DCU Supergirl, the Millie Alcock one that we just saw in Superman that just came out. We're going with the DCEU Supergirl, the hot one from The Flash. Man, she was a great Supergirl. Not just because she was hot. I thought she did great as that version of Supergirl, and I really would like to see her come back. I know it would be confusing, but they brought back other characters. I particularly think she wouldn't be the traditional Power Girl, but I think that she'd be an interesting version of Power Girl if they brought her back for the DCU. She's a similar age to Millie Alcock. They could make her hair blonde if they want so that she looks more like Millie Alcock. But in the comics, Power Girl is the Earth it's Earth. She's from Earth 2, I believe, or the alternate universe basically. She's from a different Earth version of Supergirl. So she's the Supergirl from an alternate universe that comes to our universe. So and she's she looks a little bit different. She's a little bit more endowed. But I think that it would be cool to see the DCEU Supergirl back in the DCU, because I thought she did a really great job, and she got a bad shake being in that movie. She was one of the better parts of the Flash movie. So for our wide receiver, and Henry Cavill, he got the shaft with the whole Black Adam situation. So we're bringing him back here for a little bit of redemption at our wide receivers. 2 Superman characters. She's not a man, obviously, but she's a Superman related character. She's Supergirl. So and I picked Henry Cavill Superman at wide receiver because he seems to be a little bit faster than David Corenswet Superman. Now, David Corenswet Superman is less experienced. He's only in year 3. But we'll see David Corenswet later on in the list, so don't worry. But at wide receiver, we have Henry Cavill Superman and the DCEU Supergirl. And then at tight end, we're going for a different strategy than I did with the MCU team. This time, I'm going to the skies, but adding a little bit of brawn. So Shazam is going to be our tight end. It's nothing complicated here. He's big. and he's fast. He's kind of built like a tight end, really. Zach Levi. He's very tall and he's large in the movies as Shazam. And he can fly, so we'll take advantage of that. So he has an advantage over the Professor Hulk. Although Professor Hulk can jump really high, he can basically fly, even though he can't. Excuse me. Even though he can't fly, he can basically fly. But we kind of have an advantage at tight end with the DCEU team with Shazam, and he's also very fast. Honestly, Shazam could play receiver too, but he's going to be our tight end. He's going to be kind of like that Kyle Pitts type of tight end. Basically a receiver, or Brock Bowers. That's a more accurate description. He's basically Brock Bowers on this team. He's basically a wide receiver that's playing tight end. And he's like a big receiver. So at flex, I mentioned we're going to see David Corn sweat Superman on this team. That is our flex. I didn't want to have an entire team of Superman, but you got to have some Superman. It's the DC live action team. So you gotta have some Superman, just like we have the two Flashes. And David Corn Sweat Superman is our flex. Not a lot to explain or go into depth here. He's Superman. He's just a greener version of Superman, which is why I put him at flex, and then Henry Cavill at wide receiver. But you can honestly interchange them if you want. It doesn't really matter. For our defense, I went with the same strategy as we did with the MCU with a little bit of changes. Our D line is going to be King Shark from James Gunn's Suicide Squad, Killer Croc from David Ayer's Suicide Squad. So we got the two Suicide Squad characters from both the two Suicide Squad movies. And then Bane is going to round out the defense as well. So those are going to be our pass rushers and run stoppers on the defensive line. Bane from the Dark Knight trilogy, obviously. And then our linebackers, our middle linebacker with the green dot, who is going to be the leader on the defense, is going to be Batfleck, Ben Affleck's Batman. He's thick, he's big, he's strong, he's down with it, he's crazy. So he's basically like Ray Lewis. He's the Ray Lewis of this defense. In the middle there, he's got the green dot. He's calling the plays. He's the leader. Batfleck is our middle linebacker, and then I have Aquaman at outside linebacker. He'll be kind of like the pass rushing, Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa type of outside linebacker. And then at other outside linebacker is Kilowog. This one's a throwback. Kilowog from the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie. He's going to be the big bruiser. He can also fly because he's a Green Lantern. So he can take, much like Doctor Strange, he can create constructs. So he's kind of playing that Doctor Strange role that Doctor Strange was playing on the MCU defense. He can create constructs with his ring. He can fly if any of the wide receivers take, crossing routes or drags across the middle or a slant across the middle. He can take care of them coming across the middle. He can guard the tight end, I guess he wouldn't be guarding Zach Levi, but he can guard any tight ends that might be flying or that are fast. So Kilowog is our other outside linebacker. So our linebackers were, again, Batfleck as a middle linebacker, Kilowog, and Aquaman, who's going to be kind of like the pass rusher. He's going to be running down, rushing the passer. And then our cornerbacks are going to be Black Adam and Hawkman for air coverage. We're taking to the skies again with the cornerbacks. Black Adam and Hawkman are our two flyers who will be our cornerbacks. And then I went with a similar strategy at safety as the MCU team. We have Adam Smasher, who, from the Black Adam movie, who is basically like Giant Man. So he'll be our goalie at the goal line, basically stopping anybody who gets past all of our other defenders. He can basically put his hands and his arms up and, kind of play goalie, basically. And then I went with Dr. Fate, shoring up the defense as well at safety. So before you get to Adam Smasher is like the last line of defense. Before you get to Adam Smasher, we got Dr. Fate at safety, kind of doing the Doctor Strange role, creating constructs and distractions and barriers for anybody that gets past the cornerbacks. Although I don't know if anybody's going to be getting past Hawkman and Black Adam, because they're pretty fast. But if they do, they're gonna have to deal with Dr. Fate and then Adam Smasher shoring up the defense at safety. So that is our defense. And then kicker was I went with a similar strategy as the MCU. I wanted to get a skilled marksman who has accuracy, but there are a lot of those in the DCEU. There is Deadshot, who is in the Suicide Squad, the David Ayer Suicide Squad. Bloodsport and Peacemaker are all very highly skilled and accurate marksmen, who are all basically the best marksmen in the DC live action. So it was kind of a hard choice, But I went with Peacemaker as our kicker because he is more of the traditional kicker look. And also, he is the most popular character. So, and I like Peacemaker the most out of them. So, Peacemaker is going to be our kicker. He's kind of going to be like our Pat McAfee type, that loud mouth, brash, arrogant kind of guy, cocky kind of guy that's, hyping up the team on the sidelines and doing a strut and things when he makes a kick. So Peacemaker's our kicker, although you could make it Deadshot or Bloodsport as well. I just went Peacemaker because he's my favorite of the three, and I Peacemaker's the show is out right now, so and I really like Peacemaker. So Peacemaker is our kicker to round out the DC live action fantasy football team. So those are the teams for our fantasy football video, the MCU team and the DC live action team. Let me know down in the comments who you think would win if they played against each other. I'm a DC guy, y'all know, so I'm partial to the DC team. But even besides that, it's got two Flashes, two Supermen, a Supergirl, so it's kind of stacked, the DC team. So I think that the DC team would win personally, but let me know what you think, who would win down in the comments below, and also let me know if you would switch any characters up or add or subtract any characters, for example, the running back 2, if there's a better running back 2 that kind of makes the DC team kind of more well-rounded, like maybe if there's a kind of bruising power back to go along with the quick Flash. But let me know what you think of the video down in the comments below. Make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more comic book and pop culture talk. Enjoy the start of the NFL season tomorrow, and I'll see y'all another day.